Hi, my name is Dominique Duarte, and I am a singer actor currently living in Brooklyn, New York. Welcome to Southern Girl in the City. Um, One of my goals this year, the first goal actually on my wall, was to cook meals at home and to reach my goal weight. One of those I feel like I made way more progress on. I did cook meals at home, and I did lose weight this year because I was closer to the 170s at the beginning of the year, and now I'm 161 as of today. I have fluctuated back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Um, I at my highest this year, I probably was in the 170s, and then at my lowest, I got down to 158. But I went right back up to 163, 162 last week, and now 161. I didn't work in catering this week, so that could be why. But I did work at the Empire State Building, but there's no food involved with that, so that's probably what helped. Um, Cooking at home has been a challenge for me in general because one, my schedule has always shifted so much. I mean, even currently, the last 4 nights I've been getting off at 12:45 in the morning, um, and not getting home until 2 o'clock or after 2 a.m. And this definitely causes your planning of meals to be a little skewed, um, especially because I had to be at work at 4, so that meant that I needed to eat at like 3 or even 2 some days. Um, and then there were periods where I was getting off at a reasonable time. Like this year, most of this year, I got off at a reasonable time until I lost the job in September and I started working in catering after my first job, which is a long day. We're talking I'm working from 8 a.m. when the kids are in school, or they're out right now for Christmas, but working from 8 to 3 and then working from 4 around 4:30 until midnight pretty consistently is a lot. And it the good news about catering is they feed you before your shift, but because I've been working at the Empire State Building the last few days, they don't feed you. They did give us food one day, but it was something to take home, and it was way after my break. But typically, in catering, they feed you, which is kind of a plus because it means that's probably the healthiest meal I'm going to get all week. Because I'm not cooking has just been a challenge for me. Like I don't enjoy it for one. I do make some things, and I'm not really a huge fan of what I make. Um, I realize that I don't mind healthy food, but I prefer when someone else is cooking it. Um, I tried HelloFresh, and I remember when I was teaching, I did HelloFresh, and I do remember I was cooking more consistently with HelloFresh. But as far as me cooking, and I believe I kept those recipes, because they gave you a recipe every time, and I kept the little cards. Like they're actually in an envelope that I have on my bookshelf. Um, Weight has been an issue for me, probably more so in my 30s. In my 20s, I was a pretty healthy weight for the most part. I definitely would fluctuate 10, 15 pounds, between 10 and 15 pounds, but for the most part, I was pretty healthy. And then the pandemic hit, well, actually, a little bit before the pandemic, I had put on like 20 extra pounds before the pandemic. And then during the pandemic, gained an additional 30. So I was 50 pounds overweight in 2021 until about, yeah, in 2021. Late 2020 to early 2021, I was 196 pounds. And it felt pretty challenging. Like I started having a lot of issues with my feet, which I think might have happened anyway because I have plantar fasciitis and I have flat feet, but the extra weight was not good. So I thought, okay, I need to lose 50 pounds. I'll lose it in like 6 months to a year. That's not what ended up happening. I think by 2022, I was about 15 pounds lighter, but I still was, I think, in the 170s pretty consistently that year. In 2023, I was living in the 170s, finally got into the 160s, went back into the 170s. I think by the end of last year, I was in the 170s. And then this year, I've been consistently in the 160s. Creeped up a little to 170, 171, but then went right back down. So I do know how to maintain at this point. Now my goal is to get to 145. And that was the goal for the last few years, honestly, was to get to 145. I was 145 when I moved to New York in 2016. I maintained that weight for about a year. And I think that was when I was healthiest. Actually, the funny thing is, when I was 145, I wanted to be slimmer at that point. I think I did want to, be 140 or 135. But I think at this point, now that I'm in my 30s, me being under 140 is really ambitious. Like, I don't really know if it's even healthy for me to be under 140. I know BMI wise, it says I'm supposed to be under 140 because I'm 5'3". However, I'm 5'3" and a half. And I think 145, what I remember about 145 was that I was in really good physical shape. I had muscles in my arms as well as my legs that were showing. I felt like I was healthy. I may not have been the healthiest eater, but I was physically in really good shape. So I think 145 is a nice goal. If I could get smaller and it's healthy, then I'll be fine with that. But for me, 145 would be the goal. And I had finally gotten to 158 a month ago and went right back up to 163. Then now I'm 161. And it's just like, this has kind of been the game I've been playing for the last few years. Just like, I'm up a few pounds, down a few pounds, up a few pounds, down a few pounds, dot, 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 dot. And it can get frustrating, especially because I know I'm in my own way. I know that I consume more sugar than I should, even though I am more aware of it and I am logging my meals. I did not log as consistently in 2024, but in 2023 I logged very consistently. Actually, well into 2024 I did log, and then for some reason I've just been really sketch with that the last few months, maybe because my life has been shifting so much. But one of the things that I learned with losing weight is that logging meals is essential. People do not want to keep food diaries, but food diaries are necessary if you want to lose weight. I don't know too many people who lost a significant amount of weight who didn't do food diaries or some form of it. You don't know. It's really collecting data. You're collecting the data of what you're eating every day. And if you know that you overconsumed, why did you overconsume? What was going on that day? Figuring that out. For me, I was easily, when I was at my heaviest, consuming 3,000 calories a day without even realizing it. And 3,000 sounds like a lot. And it is a lot. However, food-wise, it didn't seem like it was that much. However, if you're consistently consuming 3,000 calories a day, you're going to gain weight. And you're not going to know that unless you write down what you're eating. And some people think doing that is over excessive, or it shows that you have an eating disorder in a different way. But I'm like, no. If you struggle with food, which I'm definitely a person who really has always struggled with food. I've always had a poor relationship with food since I was a child. It just didn't show up on me physically until I was older, but I always had an unhealthy relationship with food. I would binge eat like no one's business. And no, a lot of the times when you do binge eat, you don't do it in front of other people, so they don't know that you do that. But there were times, and we're talking just as recent as 2 years ago, where I would eat a whole pizza and then eat a pint of ice cream in one setting, and had no problem with it. It didn't make me sick. It wasn't anything like that. But I would do that consistently. It would be consistent. For me, food is comfort. For me, food is friend. And I've dealt a lot with loneliness throughout my entire life. So for me, food has been like a friend. Because people are not always reliable. But food is there. It's always there. People are not. And for me, food has been a way to handle the stress of life, to handle the loneliness of life. food has been it, which is why I have to keep a food diary or have to log. So I started logging on my Fitness Pal everything that I ate, and it did help me lose weight. Noom, when I first got on Noom, I'm not on it anymore, but when I originally started logging on Noom is what got me starting to log. And I think that now I just use my Fitness Pal. I don't do it every single day, but I try to do it some days. Like I did it a few days this week. But logging your meals just gives you data. It gives you data into what is going on with you, as well as how many calories are you consuming. Because if you don't know your numbers, you don't know how to fix them. At this point, when I do log my meals, most days I am under 2,000 calories pretty consistently. So I was able to change from eating 3,000 calories a day to eating between 1,500 to 2,000 consistently. Now the trick is the quality of what I'm eating. At this point, I'm not over consuming calories so much now. However, I am working in catering now, and that is this particular company that I'm working for. It is a little harder to not eat the food. In other times, because I've been in catering now for 3 years, and I have not gained weight because of catering. But in the last month or so, since I've been at this place, well, I've been at this place for 3 months, Tribeca Rooftop. The first couple of months, I actually didn't gain. But this month I did. I think it was because there were a lot of holiday parties. The kids were always having stuff at school. So it just was not a good month for me. But typically, if we're not dealing with the holidays, I'm able to maintain within a 5-pound range. Weighing in. Some people don't like this either. If you don't do it. But weighing in, I don't think you should weigh yourself every day. I do not weigh myself every day. I weigh myself every week to every 2 weeks. And I do that because I need to know where I'm at. And sometimes physically, I will feel like I gained weight and I actually didn't. And then there's some times where I didn't think I gained and I did. So you can't always go by your feeling. You have to go by the number. And the number says, hey, you gained weight. Or you lost weight. And sometimes maybe it is muscle, but you don't know, and you don't know that part. But it gives you data. It's like, okay, I was 160, I was 158 a few weeks ago. Well, now you're 163. What's happening? All right, now you're 162. You're 161. And it could be water weight, but some of it isn't. So I'm like, weighing yourself, once again, is just data. Giving yourself data. The next thing is planning all meals. This has been the struggle for me as to why I cannot reach my goal weight. Planning my meals has been so hard. And I think it's hard for everybody, which is why everybody struggles. I'd say a good chunk of people struggle with their weight. Some of it is genetics, and some of it is we don't plan our meals. When you do not plan your meals, you're setting yourself up for failure. You are setting yourself up for significant failure. I tend to eat more poorly when I haven't planned what I was going to eat. And if you know you're having a schedule change this week, if you know that something's going to happen differently this week, then you got to plan for it. Because if you don't, you're going to eat whatever. And that's problematic. And that's what keeps getting me in trouble. Is because I had planned my meals and still didn't stick to the plan. There's the other thing. Planning it and not sticking to it. Lately, I've been trying to stick to it. But once again, it's the quality. So I've been cooking at home more this year. I've been cooking my breakfast on Sundays and then eating it throughout the week. That was a good thing. Then I would come home. This is before I got the job in catering at Tribeca Rooftop. But before, if I was working at a Merryvent's, they would feed you. They feed you a decent meal. Somewhat decent. It's better than what I would make. And then when I was getting off from the preschool, I would come home. I would cook something in a pot. And then I would drink a smoothie. I'd make a smoothie. And then that would be my dinner. Instead of me eating out. Because before, I would consistently either go to a bodega or I would go eat out. But this year was the most consistent with eating at home. Now, here's the other caveat. Cooking the thing that I cook in the pot is not exactly the most healthy thing either, because I use pesticides, and pesticides is something that you can buy from the store. I get it from Key Foods. It's got a lot of sodium in it. However, before this, I would eat frozen meals. If I wasn't eating out, I was eating a frozen meal. Now, I really did cut down on eating frozen meals this year. However, pesticides are not great either because it's also got a lot of sodium, which I know, but for me, I guess it's the lesser of two evils. I just didn't want to have to cook the rice. I just don't enjoy cooking. Okay, so for me, it's a start. It's not the end. It's a start. So I started cooking those, and I cooked one today. I made it today. It was good. It tasted good. I mean, you put the cup of water, cup of milk. And the thing about the pesticides is it's not that processed, because I think that those are real noodles. They're real noodles that you would get from the store. And it's got seasoning in it. And you just pour it in there. And it tastes very good. But ideally, I want to get to the point, after talking with my relatives this weekend or during Christmas, is like, I would like to get to the point where I could cook the actual rice and cook the actual beans and cook the food. But it is a skill that I think is not always easy for everybody to cook. Like, I know that it should seem so simple, but cooking requires patience. It requires time. And when you're working 2 and 3 jobs, like I have been doing for 12 years, time has not been my friend. So if I am going to do that, I would need to plan my meals for the week. And one of my relatives suggested getting like some type of pot, like a crock type pot, and then maybe cooking the beans and the rice in there. I could try that. I think I will try that, because I think that maybe that would help if I made my food for the week. And then pre-cutting the vegetables and pre-cutting the different things, because now we need to move to me having better quality of food. I know how to eat a decent amount of calories at this point. I'm getting physical activity, which is the next thing. You got to get some type of physical activity. And you can log that on MyFitnessPal, but you got to get some type of physical activity. If it's not walking, at this point, I walk about 5 miles a day, in addition to the fact that I work on the 3rd floor of the school, so I'm always going up and down stairs. I'm always going up and down subway steps. I am walking for several hours when I'm catering, so at this point, I'm getting a lot of steps in. And me walking 5 miles a day has been a consistent habit since about 2022. And that has definitely helped with the maintaining of the weight. For me to get to the goal weight, I will have to go to the next level, which is to maybe tone up more by going to the gym. And then the second thing is cooking my food. Like, every single thing has to be cooked, like not processed, but cooked. And then not eating out. One of my relatives was saying, you just kind of almost have to, and everyone's different, because this may not work for other people, and it may not work for me, but I'm going to try it. I was reading this book called Atomic Habits, and it was talking about how you can just kind of work on your identity and changing your identity, and maybe you're just become a person who just doesn't eat fast food. And I had never really thought of it that way, but I think because I have such an issue with food, I may have to consider thinking that way. Because when you have a food addiction, I feel like everything is free game for you. And maybe by limiting the types of foods I'm eating, maybe that can give me a little bit more of a smaller window of choice of food. When I go to the bodega, I could make better choices. They have smoothies. They have healthier choices. I could make healthier choices. In New York City, of all places, you could make healthier choices than you've been making. I agree. And sometimes I've just been lazy. So, definitely getting some physical activity, And the last thing I have on here is giving yourself grace. Give yourself grace. It is not easy to make changes. And this was the girl who wanted to lose 50 pounds in a year, and that did not happen. It basically took me 2 years, I think 2.5 years, to lose 30 pounds. This was not an easy process. I still am struggling. I still have days when I'm overindulging in sugar. It's happening. I know that it takes discipline. But I feel like sometimes discipline is a really hard word to hear, especially when you struggle with food addiction, because you're always being tempted all the time. The food is always in your face all the time. Like you don't get a break from food the way other people, if you struggle with drugs, well, you really have to seek that out. Like you have to go to someone. You have to go seek it out. But with food, with drugs, if you stop hanging out with certain people, you start hanging out with a different crowd of people, you're not exposed to it anymore. But with food, you're constantly exposed to it. You got pictures everywhere. You have it everywhere. Like there's not a place I walk into where there's not food available to buy or to consume. It is not easy to deal with a food addiction. And I think that sometimes maybe it's oversimplified. Like people are just like, just make better choices, just do better. And it's like, well, I'm trying. But it's not, it's difficult. Why does Overeaters Anonymous exist? Because people struggle with food. Some of the most intelligent, smartest people who are super successful still struggle with food. It's hard to make changes. So give yourself grace. If you cheated, well, you try again tomorrow and do better. And if you do it for a few days, it happens. It has happened to me. How do you think I have bounced back and forth between 5 and 10 pounds here and there? Because I have had great days, and then I've had days that weren't so good. I've had good days and then bad days, and good days and okay days. And don't even judge it as good, bad, or okay. Just judge it as is. This is what I ate today. This is what I consumed. I have it logged down. This is how much activity I got today. You'll just log it. It becomes a habit. And then, weigh in every week. Weigh in every 2 weeks. Whatever works. If you don't want to weigh in at all, then maybe try measuring yourself. Like measuring your waist and measuring your bust and your hips. If that's better for you, it might work better for you than seeing the number on the scale. Because for some people, that's really triggering. For some reason, it's never been that triggering for me. I do get frustrated, I think, because I'm just like, girl, what is wrong with you? Make better decisions. But that's just it. In a lot of areas in my life, I do have to be very disciplined, and I do have to be more together. And so I think for me, by the time I have done everything, food is last on the list of things that are important. At least that's the way it has been in the past. I feel like this year I made better strides because at least I was cooking at home most of the time. I'd say I cooked at home more this year than I probably ever have in my entire adult life. So I'm making progress, and I have to be proud of the progress I've made, even if I'm still consuming more sodium or I'm still consuming more sugar than I should. But you're making strides in the right direction, because I've tried going cold turkey with changes and it doesn't work. And that was another thing in the book too. It was saying that if you try to do something that's too difficult for you to do and you continue to fail, that is also going to make you not progress either. So take steps that work for you. If you can only walk 15 minutes a day, try 15 minutes a day. Try 30 minutes a day. That's some type of physical activity. That's why I just said, just plan some type of physical activity. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just do something. And that's pretty much it. To lose the 30 pounds and keep it off, because now I have kept it off for a while. The 30 pounds, because the highest I was this year was 170, and I The highest I ever have been in life was 196, and that was in 2021. So from 2021 until 2023, that's where I lost the 30 pounds. And then this year I had gone up to 170, but went right back down to 168, 166. Um, so that's that 30 pound. This is the first year that I broke past the 30. So I've now lost. Well, at one point I had lost 38 pounds. Yeah. At one point I had lost 38 pounds, but then went right back up to 161. So it's 163, then 61. So I've lost a total of 35 pounds. I lost 35 pounds. It was 38, now it's 35. So I lost 35 pounds, and that's progress because it ain't been easy for me to lose 35 pounds at all. It's been very challenging, and I know it seems like you should be able to lose it like this, but it's just like life happens. And I also had a lot of changes this year. This actually was the most difficult year for me stress wise. So it could have gone in the other direction. Like it could have been like, oh, you put on an extra 20 pounds. Well, yeah, you fluctuated in the same 10 between 160, 158 and 170. But the highest was like in January. I think it was like 168 to 170, and then I pretty much stayed between 164 and 168 most of the year. Then finally broke to the under 160 a month ago, and then went back up to 163, 162, 161. So it's just like, it could have been worse. It could have been way worse because I really had a lot of stressful situations this year. Especially after losing my job, I would have thought I would have went up in weight, and I actually went down in weight, and then went up lately, in the last few weeks. But I would say we done made progress because as much stress as I had this year, this could have been an easy year where I put on like 10, 15 pounds, and I didn't. So we're making progress, and I just have to be grateful for the progress I made. But yeah, if you're trying to lose weight, I think the first part is to start doing some physical activity. The second thing is to log everything you eat. If you need to write it down in a notebook, that's fine. I don't use a notebook. I use my Fitness Pal. My Fitness Pal is free. You don't have to pay for it. You just put in every single thing you eat. You can type in what it is, and you probably will find it, or you can find some simulation of it, and it'll tell you how many calories it was. It'll tell you how much fat was in it, how much sugar, how much protein, how much whatever you consume for the day. And it just gives you data. Just think of it as data. Don't think of it as like, oh my gosh, I did so horrible today. It's just like, this is data. And then after a while, you'll see the numbers, and you'll kind of start to trend down. But it's going to take a while for you to start trending down. One thing I also had to do was to stop doing Grubhub, DoorDash. I couldn't do DoorDash. I couldn't do Grubhub. I could not do those things. It was when I was at my heaviest, was when I used those apps. I cannot use those apps. I also started leaving my debit card at home the last few months because I've been budgeting better. If you have a food addiction, where some of us do have a food addiction, I can't speak for everyone. Well, for me, it was not good because the food just walks to your door. And I already have so much temptation with food when I'm out in the world. So for it to just walk to my front door, it wasn't working. It's when I put on the most weight. So when I started cutting out DoorDash, Grubhub, and whatever, any of those apps, that helped. Now I might order a pizza, or I might do something online, but it's rare. I don't do it the way I was doing it when I had those apps. So that really was the first thing, was to logging the meals, becoming physically active, then canceling all of those apps. That's when I lost the first 14 pounds pretty quickly. But you are going to plateau, and Lord knows I have. I plateaued in the 170s for so long and plateaued in the 160s for so long. The fact that I broke past 160 this year was shocking. Okay, the fact that I broke into 158, I was shocked. So I mean, it's gonna be a slow. It can be slow, and that's okay if it's slow. At least you're making progress. You have to be grateful for the progress you're making, and you can't compare yourself to everyone else who's doing things differently than you, because your finish line, I'm sorry, your starting line was different from other people. And not everyone has a food addiction. Like some people, maybe they have always had more discipline with food. But for you, it's harder for you. So give yourself grace and plan your meals. Plan your meals. Uh, what could help is when I bought the little smoothie thing that helped inspire me to make smoothies more consistently. What I'm thinking is maybe getting the crock pot that my relatives suggested getting, and maybe that will help also with cooking the beans or the rice or the lentils or whatever I choose. Maybe by buying that, it will help me cook more, actually cooking and eating cleaner. And then, also just not choosing fast food as a last, just choosing not to go to fast food places, which might be a little drastic. For me, I think I've already been going in that direction because I feel like when I do eat fast food, I don't enjoy it the way I used to. So I do think this year I didn't eat out as much as I have in the past. But I'm at that place right now. You may not be at that place. So it's okay. Like for me, I'm really considering what one of my relatives suggested, which was just not to eat fast food at all. Like just to cut it. And I think I might be at that place where I can do that. But if you had told me that 2 years ago or even a year ago, I would have said, psh. But now I feel differently because when I eat those foods, I do feel poorly. So I do think my taste buds are starting to shift a little bit. And a lot of the times I'm going because of convenience and not because I just craving it. A lot of the times it is just, I need something to eat. I gotta eat something, so I'm gonna eat this McDonald's. But is it good? A lot of the times, I'm gonna be honest, it's not. Lately, in this particular year, when I have eaten fast food, I have not enjoyed it. But it used to be something that I really did enjoy. So everybody's in a different place. And that's okay. So yeah. And if you're going to start cooking, invest into some maybe a crock pot, or invest in utensils. You invest in a skillet, invest in, plates and silverware and things, because some of us don't have that. I mean, a lot of people who eat out a lot, they don't even have the cooking utensils to even do anything. I think I bought my skillet about a year ago, and I've used it pretty consistently, and I have a pan that I'll cook meat in. That's something. But losing weight is a process. It is about changing habits. And if you want to read this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, I think it's a good start because it teaches you the power of making small changes. A small change for you could be just walking 15 minutes tomorrow. That's something. A small change for you could be just, hey, I'm gonna write down what I ate today, or I'm going to log it on my MyFitnessPal. It's a start, and you got to start somewhere. So I'm praying that I can get to my goal weight by February. I'm also going to try harder to intermittent fast. Something that I actually had experimented with the last couple of years but have not been as consistent about. I've been trying to eat between 12 and 6, but then when I got this job at the school, my lunch was at 12, which is early. I think at this point, I'm just going to eat it at 3 o'clock when I get off from work. And then I'm going to pack what I'm going to eat it at 3 o'clock, and then go home and then make dinner and try to eat between the hours and 3 and 7 p.m. That's what I've done the last couple of days. Um, I just I wonder too, am I also just over consuming because my window's so wide, and since I think that a lot of people struggle with portion control and food control, I think the more hours that you have of an open window to eat, it can make you overeat. So I'm gonna try. This isn't permanent, but I'm gonna try to eat between 3 p.m. and 7 every day and see how that works. So far, it worked today, and I mean, I ate a decent amount, and it was filling. So, yeah, that's just what I'm gonna try. But intermittent fasting, you could do 8 hours. I think 12 to 6 is a great start. If you wanted to eat between 12 and 6 p.m., you could have your lunch or brunch and dinner 12 to 6. It's a 6 hour window, correct? 6 hour window. You can make it an 8 hour window from 12 to 8. You only eat from 12 to 8. But it does kind of give you more of a limit as to how much to eat or when to eat. And I think that intermittent fasting is a good thing for your body as well. Because sometimes I think maybe we are just eating too much. I know I have. So, yeah, whatever works. Try some of these things. Try one of these things. Just try. I understand the weight struggle. It really is hard. It's hard. But you can do it. So I hope you have a lovely week. Break legs with your weight loss goals. And have a good week. Bye.